Okay, so here we are live once again with another DC Multiverse unboxing. This is a Mcfarlane Collector Edition. See the foil there? And this is Green Lantern, but not just any Green Lantern. This is the Green Lantern Corps, the entire Green Lantern Corps. Figure number 22 says a number on the side. It's not actually the entire Green Lantern Corps, but it is two of the most important members of the Green Lantern Corps. So we're going to go ahead and have a look at this. Very nice piece of artwork on the back. Classic comic book cover from the Green Lantern Corps miniseries. This is a piece of artwork by, I was thinking it was Jim Starlin, but now I'm looking at it and I think it's actually Brian Bolland. I don't see a signature on it anywhere. But if it is Brian Bolland, it's like an early Brian Bolland. So, like Hal looks to me like very, very Jim Starlin-esque. But then I look at Katma Tui's face, and she looks more like a Brian Bolland drawing. Maybe it's one of them making the other. I don't know. But it's a nice piece of artwork regardless, isn't it? So there's been a bunch of Green Lantern figures in this series. And you can see it's two of the hi, Aunt June. Nice to see you. I figured you might be by. Yeah, two of the more important alien Green Lanterns. Of course, not the first alien Green Lantern we've gotten because we had Kilowog already, and he is a massive figure. And this does reuse the buck that was created for this John Stewart figure. And that in itself was a reuse of a lot of parts from this Kyle Rayner figure. They just made some new forearms and new legs, lower legs, and a slightly newer torso that did not have this flat portion here for the Green Lantern logo. He just has the logo printed over the texture. And this looks to be the same basic buck that's on this figure. And then, of course, yesterday I opened up the Silver Age Hal Jordan figure. Very cool. I regret that I slept on this figure for so long now because I'd seen him in the stores like months ago, and I kept meaning to pick him up, but I always had other stuff that I was prioritizing. But now that I've had him in my hands for a while, I'm like, this is a great figure. I love this figure. So. Had a few figures of Hal Jordan. We've had a few figures of Kyle Rayner. We've had a few figures of John Stewart. We've even had Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, but we've not had a Guy Gardner figure yet, but one is on the way. So another essential Green Lantern character that we can check that one off. So speaking of essential Green Lantern characters, we got two of them in this box. So let's go ahead and open it up. And by the way, just for full disclosure, I do have two of these. So, I like both of these characters enough that I'd want to have them both on display at the same time. So I almost kind of wonder why they bothered to do it as an alternate head in the package and didn't just sell them as two figures in the first place. Because honestly, if you're enough of a hardcore Green Lantern fan to want one of these characters, you're probably going to want both of these characters, right? I figure it might just be something to do with like, real estate on the shelves and stocking the figures and whatnot. Maybe it's a lot easier to sell both of these guys as as a kind of a 2-for-1 thing than two separate slots in the assortment for two separate, somewhat obscure characters. So we got the collector edition type figure stand with the silver DC logo. We do not have a card stand in this pack, which disappoints me, of course. But we do also have a wealth of accessories, so it kind of makes up for it. This is one that, like, I don't know. It's it's not as good of a value as some of these are, as far as like, giving you a pack in animal or something like that. You had Crypto in the pack with Superman, and he had a stand for his card. This one doesn't have a stand for it. They really should include a stand for the card in all of these collector edition packages. But there's the Aubin Sewer Head. We're going to talk about Aubin Sewer in a little bit. I like that color. It's a nice, vibrant fuchsia. Oh, let's talk about the trading cards first before we do anything else. I do not want to forget about the trading card. And it's got that same cover on it from that old 80s comic book. I'm going to have to look up who the artist is on that, because, like, now I'm really not sure. I was thinking it was Starlin, but now I'm thinking it's Brian Bolland. I need to look it up and find out. It's going to drive me nuts. Anyway, Green Lantern Corps, and it features Hal Jordan very prominently on the back, even though it's not a figure of Hal Jordan. They probably should have focused in on Tomar Ray, since he is a figure that's actually in this pack, and he's the one that got the head on there by default. He's kind of a bird/fish looking guy. I'm not sure what exactly. He's an alien, so we'll talk more about him in a little bit too. And it says, Green Lantern Corps, data file. In brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. Now, as an aside, one of my favorite alien Green Lantern characters is Rotlop Fan, who is actually from a galaxy that doesn't have any light at all, or so it's like completely pitch black there. Nobody can see. Why would they have eyeballs when they don't have light to detect with the eyeballs? And the Green Lantern Corps sent Matui to recruit Rotlop Fan into the Green Lantern Corps, but it's kind of difficult for her to explain what a Green Lantern Corps is when they have no concept of the color green, nor any concept of a lantern. So she's like, talking to him with the ring translating the languages, and she's like, I'm here to invite you to join the untranslatable Corps. and, and he just can't grasp. So she basically tells him, okay, well, what's a pleasing tone to your ears? And he's like, oh, I guess F sharp has a nice pleasing tone. Okay. So what you have, rather than a Green Lantern, what you have is an F sharp bell. So, was basically explaining to him how to utilize the ring, but in terms of sound rather than light. So the F Rotlop Fan became F sharp Bell rather than Green Lantern, but he's one of my favorite alien Green Lantern characters. They should do a figure of him. Anyway, I'm getting way off track here. I'm talking about a completely different character that's than what's actually in this pack. So there are worlds of the ancient. Those are the words of the ancient oath, which tripping over my words here. I'm sorry. Those are the words of the ancient oath that every member of the Green Lantern Corps, the most elite institution in the universe, has ever known. Actually, in the Silver Age, Hal Jordan wrote that oath himself, and all the Green Lanterns had their own oath. But eventually, this just became the oath of the Green Lantern Corps. I'm getting off track again. I'm sorry. The most elite institution the universe has ever known must speak aloud during their sacred duty and charging their emerald power rings, the most powerful weapons in the universe. The members of this intergalactic police force come from every known sentient species in the cosmos, each a fearless warrior with indomitable willpower. Pretty cool, huh? All right. So let's go ahead and have a look at the rest of these accessories in this package. So we've already looked at Abinsur's head. Let's pull up. If you're going to have any one accessory for a Green Lantern figure, you want to have the power battery. And like the one that came with the Silver Age Hal Jordan that we opened up yesterday, it is molded in a translucent green plastic. This is a completely different sculpt, though, as we can see. They did not just reuse the same, power battery sculpt that we've gotten with other figures. So that's very nice. And this one, unlike the Hal Jordan one, has a little bit of paint on the lantern. to make it look a little more glowy. I kind of wonder if maybe it's a glow-in-the-dark paint. Doesn't look like it. I mean, like, it looks like the kind of paint that would be glow-in-the-dark, but it doesn't seem to be glow-in-the-dark. So, moving on. Our Green Lantern does have a couple of extra hands. I should probably just cut the tape. That'd probably make it easier. So cut the tape on those, and that'll make it easier for them to pop out. So we have what's really nice, a ring hand with some ring energy coming out of it, and then another one with much more ring energy coming out of it, an actual beam. And the smaller one looks like it has like a little ball joint on there. So I'm thinking that might attach to something else, but actually it looks like it's a little Green Lantern. It's a little sculpt of another green, it's not a Green Lantern. I know what it is. That is one of the Guardians of the Universe in hologram form, so he can be communicating with the Guardian through the ring. That's really cool. I like that. All right, so we're gonna have some fun with that, and then a bunch more hands. Oh wow. Okay, so let's have a look at these hands. So in the package, we see that Tomar-Ray has a fist with the ring on it on the right hand, and a gripping hand on the left hand. And then there are 2 more right hands in kind of flat positions, a clenched left fist, so the 2 right hands with rings, a clenched left fist, and an open left hand. So let's go ahead and pull those out. So here is our open left hand. So there's that. Set that aside for now. And then we've got the clenched left hand, the clenched fist. So there's that. They do give you a lot of display options here, and that's nice. So even though I do feel like it was kind of a little bit cheap not to include the card stand, at least this one does give you a lot of bells and whistles, which I feel like it does at least somewhat justify the more premium price of this particular figure. So both of these are almost the same exact hand, but you can see that one of them, the fingers are slightly pointier and a little more alien looking. So I guess with the clenched fist, they didn't feel the need to bother, but maybe with that open hand, they thought it was probably a good idea to give you one that looked just a little bit more alien if you wanted to do that. Like, I think technically Tomar-Ray is supposed to have 3 fingers on his hand instead of 4, so really his hand should look kind of like that. But that's kind of splitting hairs. And it might be one of those things where it depends on who's drawing it at the time. So let's go ahead and get out the last accessory, which is this shield. And it's got a little clip on the back so that you can clip that to his wrist. All right. So as for the figure itself, it looks like we've got rubber tabs around each of the ankles. All right, so those are out of the way. And then rubber tabs around, God, really around the bicep? Oh, that's going to be a pain. Come on. There, got it. And this one is around the wrist. So that's at least a little easier to get to. And then last but not least, we've got the dreaded double rubber tabs around the torso. Although at least these ones aren't directly on the emblem like they were with Hal. There we go. By the way, I didn't talk too much about that in the video after I got it loose. It did actually put some slight marks across the torso there, unfortunately. but they're not that noticeable. So I guess it's not that bad, all things considered. All right, now that we have our rubber tabs out of the way, we can get Tomar Ray out of the package. And I'm going to go ahead and put this back together real quick so that we can put that in the recycling later. There we go. And of course, I've got another one of these to open later, but I'm not going to actually do it on camera. You've already seen me open up one of these. You get the point. We can talk about everything that we need to, just with the stuff that's in this box. And I will, however, before I take the thumbnail picture, I'll go ahead and take the other figure out of the package so that I can have both these guys together. So anyway, we can see that this does reuse the same body that John Stewart uses, although it is a more modern Green Lantern costume, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense considering how these are both Silver Age characters. You know, like, I can kind of forgive it on Tomar Ray because he did at least stick around like late into the Bronze Age. But Abin Sur should be wearing this costume because he, really only appears in the first Green Lantern story. So let's go ahead and we're going to pop Tomar Ray's head off for now. And we're going to put Abin Sur's head on. So we're going to talk about Abin Sur first. This is going to be kind of an involved episode, so we're going to be talking about these characters. All right. So Abin Sur is actually the first Green Lantern that we ever see in a Green Lantern comic book story, and he is one of the most important. He is the first alien Green Lantern that we see, and he is the one who introduces us to the concept of the Green Lantern Corps in general, because he is mortally wounded by a solar flare, and his ship crashes on Earth, and he's mortally wounded, like I said. So he sends out his ring to find someone who is completely fearless to succeed him as the Green Lantern of Sector 2814. So it finds Hal Jordan, test pilot, and brings him to the crash site, in which Abin Sur bequeaths him the power ring and the uniform and everything like that, and Hal Jordan becomes Green Lantern. Now, since this is the first story of Green Lantern, there's some things that don't quite mesh up with the later mythology. Like, if Green Lantern can fly through space with the power of his ring, why was Abin Sur flying a spaceship? And they would have a few stories that would explain this. There was a story during the Silver Age that explained why Abin Sur was flying a ship, but I guess Alan Moore never read that one or just forgot about it, because Alan Moore wrote his own story of why Abin Sur was flying a spaceship, and that's in one of those Green Lantern Corps annuals. I suggest you check that out if you haven't already. And it's a very easy story to find in reprints because, since it's an Alan Moore Green Lantern story, they reprinted a lot. And it's in, any of those collections they have of, Alan Moore writes the DC universe kind of things. That's where I would have first read it. It was in one of those trade paperbacks. But yeah, Abin Sur wound up making it into animation and even the live action Green Lantern movie due to his position as being the alien Green Lantern that passes on the ring to Hal Jordan. So interestingly enough, they give his head kind of, I guess, to make him look more alien. His head, I don't know if it's going to come across with the camera, it has almost kind of like a scaly reptilian kind of texture to it. It's got a great face sculpt with some character to the face, like a little bit of a furrow to the brow. And Alan Moore's tale of Abin Sur, he does seem to be like a more sort of thoughtful, intellectual, philosophical type character than we're used to seeing from, say, Hal Jordan or any of the other Green Lanterns that we knew. So yeah, very interesting take on the character. Basically, Abin Sur goes into hell to save a small child that's trapped, like a planet that's basically hell. Uh, there was so much stuff. Alan Moore only wrote like a few backup stories for Green Lantern, and they were all kind of stories that were building out the mythos around the characters. Like, I don't think he wrote any stories with Hal Jordan in them, but he'd write stories about other Green Lantern characters, like I said, Abin Sur and Cop Matui. He was the one who wrote the F Sharp Bell story I was talking about. Actually, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, he created the character of Mogo. Mogo doesn't socialize. So for a guy who only wrote a few backup stories in Green Lantern, he casts a long shadow and has a very impressive legacy with the character and the mythology surrounding him. But it's Alan Moore, so what else do you expect? He's, oftentimes considered like the greatest comic book writer of all time. I don't know if I'd say that necessarily, but I'd be hard pressed to think of anybody who rivals him. So he definitely would be in like my top 3 of comic book writers, I think. Anyway, for considering how he's a character that dies in the first Green Lantern story, and we really only see him in flashbacks and stuff like that later on, Abin Sur is a very important character in the Green Lantern mythology. So of course you want to have an action figure of him, but this isn't just an Abin Sur action figure. It's also an action figure of another one of my favorite Green Lantern characters, Tomar-Re. Now, the interesting thing about Tomar-Re is, besides Abin Sur, Tomar-Re is the first alien Green Lantern that we encounter in the Silver Age comic book stories. So it's the first time that Hal Jordan meets a Green Lantern from another planet. Like I said, obviously other than Abin Sur himself, who was, the first Green Lantern we ever see. So, but the most interesting thing about Tomar-Re, which we don't find out about until much later on in a story in the 1970s, and it's not in a Green Lantern comic book. It's in Superman 279, I think. And it's a story in which we find out that Tomar-Re was the Green Lantern who is his sector was the sector that Krypton was in. And his greatest failure was he was not able to prevent the explosion of Krypton, and it was something that weighed heavily on him for most of his career after that. But of course, if Krypton hadn't been destroyed, the universe wouldn't have gotten Superman. So it's kind of a mixed bag there. But Elliot S. Maggin wrote that story, who's my favorite, personally, my favorite Superman writer. So it is definitely a story worth checking out if you haven't read it by then. But they did a really good job with this head sculpt. And like with Abin Sur, they add like a little bit more of a texture to his head that isn't necessarily in the classic comic books, but it makes sense with the character. And this one's a little more sort of like a wrinkled sort of texture. And then he's got this fin on his head, of course. And I don't know if this was by intention or not, but it does seem like the head is molded in somewhat of a translucent plastic, and of course it's painted, but you can kind of see through his fin just a little bit. It's not that translucent, but if you hold it up to the light, you can definitely see through it, and that's kind of cool. And it kind of depends. A lot of the time, some of the alien Green Lanterns have masks, and obviously Abin Sur did not, but Tomar-Re does. So some of them have masks and some of them don't. It's I guess it depends on whether or not they want to wear one, but we can see like Arcus Chomek has one. Cop Matui does not. I've mentioned before how much I love the character of Sinestro, and he's one of my favorite villains in comics in general. Sinestro was or Cop Matui is the Green Lantern who was appointed to that sector after Sinestro was kicked out of the Green Lantern Corps. And Sinestro was basically like the space version of Bad Mustache Man. from World War II. He was a tyrant, and you can imagine how it might have weighed heavily on a young woman like Katmatui to basically, wear the equivalent of a swastika on her chest, at least for her planet. Like she's got to come in and be working against this reputation that Sinestro had as being kind of a dictator, and kind of win back the trust of the people of her planet who aren't exactly too fond of Green Lanterns after having to deal with Sinestro. So hopefully they'll do a figure of her. I really like that character. So anyway, we've talked a good bit about the characters. Now let's talk a little bit more about the figure itself. So first let's talk about the articulation. So Green Lantern can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He can tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around at the neck. Great articulation on that neck. Let's go ahead and try Abin Sur and see how that works, since it is a different head. And you want to make sure you get it popped all the way on, because it's got a really long neck stem to it. Now it's not wanting to go on. And since it is a long neck stem, then I'm kind of worried about bending it up if I press it too far. There, I got it on that time. So yeah, Abin Sur can look up, down, about that far, and tilts his head kind of quizzically from side to side. Turn his head all the way around. All right, we'll just leave Abin's head on there for now. All right, so he's got the butterfly joint, so the arms can move forward at the shoulders about that far, or move backwards about that far, move forwards about that far. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around at the shoulders. And he does have a bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around. Got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion we get at the elbows. So pretty good range of motion at the elbows. He's got the cool Mcfarlane ball jointed wrists. Those can move around whichever way we want. He's got great Mcfarlane torso articulation, so that can move around pretty much whichever way we want. Green Lantern can kick up about that far, so good range of motion, about 90 degrees at the hips. He's got double jointed knees, so that's about the range of motion we get at the knees. Green Lantern does not have a boot cut, which is typical for Mcfarlane. Even though it looks like this piece of plastic is a separate piece, the green is a separate piece from the black. They could have easily put a boot cut in there, but they didn't for whatever reason. But that's okay, because he's got this great ankle articulation that Mcfarlane toys typically come with, so the ankle does rotate all the way around where the ankle meets the shin, and it rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the foot. So Green Lantern can point his foot down about that far and point it up about that far, and then he's got toe articulation just to show off. So I mentioned before how this is not really the costume that Abin Sur would have, and that the costume that Abin Sur would have would actually be this one. So let's go ahead and see if we can pop Abin Sur's head onto the Hal Jordan body and see how that works. And almost pop the whole neck joint out. Pop that back on there, so we can see how it fits on here. Now, of course, Hal Jordan has his neck painted in Caucasian flesh color, so you'd want to do something about that. Either strip the paint off or paint it to match the skin, but that's a little more accurate to the costume that he would have had in the comic book. I'm sure most people probably wouldn't care so much, but I had to try it. I just had to see what it looked like. All right, so I'm going to pop Hal's head back on. This is a really good Hal Jordan figure. I'm really happy with it. I keep talking about it, but like I said, I'm really impressed with it. It's one of those things where, I saw it and I thought it was a pretty cool figure, and then once I have it in my hands, and I'm like, okay, this is better than I gave it credit for. So let's go ahead and pop the Abin Sur head back on there. I'm going to leave that one on there because in the package he comes with Tomar Ray on there, and I'm about to open this one up. Anyway, once I'm done with this video, so I can go ahead and shoot the thumbnail. Anyway, this is a really great figure, and it's, like I said, 2 figures in one, so that's a pretty good deal. Even though, like, I said, the Mcfarlane collector editions are a little more expensive, and a lot of the times I grouse about how, like, they're overpriced. This one I would not say is overpriced. This one I say, like, considering the amount of accessories that we're getting in this box, it's actually, like, I think a pretty good deal. Let's go ahead and try these extra hands on there. So I haven't tried these on there yet. Just the ring construct hands. So okay, so here we have Amensur communicating with the Guardian. We'll get that turned around at the right angle. So, Green Lantern of Sector 2814, I have a mission for you. Like that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. And then, of course, the Power Blast. This is really nice. So we can pop that one on there. And he can take out some evildoers. Wow! Pretty sweet. Almost got that kind of Han Solo kind of hand gesture thing going on there. So, yeah, I almost forgot to talk about those, didn't I? And we got to pop the power battery into his hand and see what he looks like with the power battery. And how well he holds that. Very cool. So, so yeah, these are not going to be figures that I think the casual DC fan is going to be that excited about. Like the ones who might just buy a couple of Batmans and maybe fill out the Justice League and call it a day. But if you're the hardcore kind of DC fan like I am, and especially a hardcore fan of the Green Lantern characters specifically, you're not just going to want to buy this figure. You're going to want to buy this figure twice. And I don't know for certain because I haven't seen it in person, but I think that there's a variant version of this that has a couple of other heads to it. I think Arcus Chummock was one of them, but I haven't been able to find it yet in stores, and I haven't seen it selling online. But I seem to remember seeing publicity shots of it, so I think that might be the case. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it for the Green Lantern Corps today. I'll be back probably tomorrow with another video, but I don't know what I'm going to open yet. I've got a lot more of the Mcfarlane stuff to open. So let's have a look and see at what we've got over here. We've got Fire, we've got Commander Steel. I know I've got a bunch of other stuff on the other side, but I think what would be most appropriate to open up is the Atom, another Gil Kane character, and another use of the kind of standard Mcfarlane buck that they like to use a lot. So we'll open up the Atom tomorrow. How about that? And if not tomorrow, it'll be later on. My next episode will be the Atom. That's what I've decided. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to make sure that you don't miss out on the Atom, make sure you like and subscribe. All the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Abensur and Tomar Ray, both the figures and the characters in general. I want to hear what you think about them. And what are some of your other favorite alien Green Lanterns? What are some of your favorite stories involving the alien Green Lanterns? I always thought that was one of the more interesting aspects of the Green Lantern stories. So I look forward to hearing what you have to say. We will talk to you next time. Bye.